Hi there, my name is Dennis Jones and I want to welcome you to the Bryan Museum in Galveston, Texas. I'm going to be your guide through a series of discussions or conversations about history. I know what you're saying, you probably think history is dull and boring, and yeah, sometimes it can be. But what we're going to do is we're going to learn a lot about the specifics and some details about the way people lived and how the way they lived affected the big moments in history. The really big ones. We're going to talk about them too, but I think they're going to be a lot more fun than maybe some of the other ways that you've been obliged to study them. So come with me, we're going to go this way. Let's talk about counting money. If you could come to Texas, which would you rather have, a sack of gold or a sack of nails? A sack of gold or a sack of nails? Well, most people would say, I want a sack of gold, I want a sack of gold. Well, if you had come to Texas in the very, very early days, there wouldn't be any place to spend your gold. A sack of nails is another thing. You could trade a sack of nails for, let's say, 4 or 5 chickens. You like chicken? Okay, well, you could trade a sack of nails for some chickens and then you'd actually have something. But you couldn't trade a sack of gold for chickens because then the people would say, what am I going to do with this gold? I can't use this. So let's talk about money and what it would look like if you really had money to bring to Texas with you. There were all kinds of different monies out there. The United States made money, the French made money, the Spanish made money. Everybody made their own kind of money. But at that point in time, Spain had a lot of silver and a lot of gold, more than other countries. And what they did was they made lots and lots of coins. And so most other countries said, we don't care whose face is on that coin or whose name is on that coin. As long as it's the right weight, what we'll do is we'll use it just like it was our own money. This is called a real. This is ocho reales, is how you would say it in Spanish. Ocho reales. And this is a Spanish dollar. These were used in the United States. And if you were to compare them to a US dollar, they're almost exactly the same size. This is another kind of Spanish coin that was made where the gold was mined. This is called a cabo. A cabo is a bar of gold. They take the bar of gold and they cut it off and they weigh it. And because they don't have a fancy thing to make a real coin out of, what they do is they take the king's seal and they put it on it and they go bang, and they hit it really hard, and it puts like a cross or the seal of Castile and Leon on it. And that tells you that this is the right weight for if this was a real coin. This is called an escudo. An escudo, I think in Spanish, means shield. And this is 8 escudos. 8 escudos. Now, they didn't have a lot of different kinds of coins. So they didn't have nickels and dimes and pennies and quarters. So what they would do is if you needed change, what they would do is they would cut the coins up into different pieces. Say you bought something for $0.25. Okay, and you give me 8 reales, a whole dollar, if you will. Now, and the thing you bought was only $0.25. Do I get to keep your change? No. You probably want 75 cents back. So if I don't have any small coins, what I have to do is I have to cut one of the big coins into 4 pieces, like this. How would I cut it? I'd take probably a big knife and I'd go ka-chunk, ka-chunk, and that looks like it's about 4, that's equal sizes, and we'd be guessing at best. But now I would take my quarter away and I would give you those 4 back, or those 3 back, and that would be 75 cents. Now, have you ever heard of a piece of 8? And if you've seen some of the pirate shows, I'm sure you have. For example, there's little pizza slices, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is where pieces of 8 came from. You could have pieces of 8 that were gold, but more often than not, what you would have is ocho reales, which is 8 royals, and this is a piece of 8. But also, look here, these things are really, really small. They took one of these quarters and they cut it again, like this. There's a quarter and there's a quarter, but they cut it in half. If this is 25 cents, that would be, are you ready for this? 12 and a half cents. 12 and a half cents. And that's what Stephen F. Austin charged the colonists in his colony to survey each acre of their land. The land was free, but the survey cost 12 and a half cents an acre. Well, the Americans called these bits. And if you had 2 bits, you had a quarter. And if you had 4 bits, you had a half a dollar. If you had 6 bits, you had 75 cents. And if you had 8 bits, you had $1. And there was an old song they used to sing, like 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits, $1. A shave and a haircut, 6 bits, which meant 75 cents for a haircut. A couple other things I want to talk to you about the Spanish money. Now, there was all kinds of other money, but this was the one that people saw most. Even when Mexico became its own country, they still used Spanish money instead of making a whole lot of Mexican money. And it would be exactly the same as this. But right here on this coin, what you can see is you can see the crown of Spain, and there's the world, and there's the ocean. And Spain has conquered the world, basically. And right here on either side of the world are these 2 columns, and they have crowns on them too. But there's this ribbon that wraps around the column. And that ribbon that wraps around the column forms what looks like the dollar sign. And today in Mexico, I believe that's the sign that they use for peso. And this is also the sign that they use in America when they talk about dollars. So that's where the dollar sign came from. And this coin was supposedly made in 1757, so you can see the dollar sign's been around for a long time. On the back side of this coin is the shield of the King of Spain. Right here you have the lions on these corners and castles in this, and those two families, or those 2 kingdoms, Castile and Leon, formed the basis for the Kingdom of Spain. Those were the 2 most important parts of it at the time. Last thing I'll tell you is this, is that one of these today would buy the same amount of stuff as $30 do today. So this is about $30 worth of money in today's money. Back then it was just $1. We're going to talk about other things as we go along, but I just wanted to share this with you because I think it's kind of neat. And also it's something you get to play with when you come to the museum.